I've done a few of these webinars to date, and this is probably one of the most interesting ones because I personally had a big problem with this question. Let me give you a bit of a background of who I am and where I came from before I get started. Maybe it sounds good. Thanks, Andy. So we're going to cover 4 or 5 topics today. 1, why is it so difficult to actually figure this out? 2, what an entry-level role means in IBD versus sales and trading, and where it could get you. 3, my suggested scorecard, so you can get an honest assessment of which way you'd want to go. If you were interested in going into a career in finance. 4th one is just a piece of general advice for undergrads, no matter which way you're recruiting. And then lastly, I'll open this up to Q&A from the audience. Now, a little disclaimer that. Cool. So here's a suggested scorecard, and I'll leave this when we go into the Q&A. I'll leave this on the screen so that you can be very honest with yourself in terms of which direction you'd want to go, and then go and focus on that direction and getting a job in that versus huddling back and forth, which can make your life pretty difficult, and also suggest to your interviewers you're not very focused on which way you want to, which direction you want to go. And that's something that's important. They really do like candidates who may have a focus. And trust me, I interviewed for sales and trading roles too, and they could tell in the first 5 minutes of it that I necessarily wasn't as interested. And they obviously didn't get very far with those roles as well, for obvious reasons. I just couldn't convey my passion and interest level the way I was able to for banking. So in the first one, interest level. So if IBD interests you, those things below are the ones that are probably interesting. So M&As, IPOs, debt raising, whatnot, but really M&A. If you'd want to understand large complex transactions, buyouts occurring, whatnot, and you need to understand how people thought about value, how the buyer met the seller, things like that. Banking's for you. If you're interested in the public markets in general, but then again, be careful about the distinction. You may be interested in the public markets as an investor, but if you're making long-term positions and a hedge fund is where you want to go, a longer-term position lends itself better to a role in value investing at a hedge fund, which you'd probably be better positioned for in investment banking. So background required to recruit. I've seen enough liberal arts majors in IBD. Sales and trading, there's a little bit more of a quant bend. So finance, business, engineering are all relevant, but something with like someone with a stat background or a math background definitely has more of an edge than someone who's in liberal arts. As long as you understand basic arithmetic, IBD is okay. As long as you kind of need to know a little bit more than just basic arithmetic to get into S&T. Skills developed, financial modeling, transaction structuring, valuation, which is basically the art of just valuing companies, and just presenting a message, whatever it may be, whether a company needs to sell itself, buy somebody else, whatnot. Banking does a very good job at teaching you. S&T, you get great product knowledge. You're able to understand how trades are structured. You get sort of extremely real-time macro insight, which don't discount the value of. If you were able to understand a market and just understand all the supply and demand dynamics, so knowledge about macro insight, and you know a market, you can know that market better than anybody else trading that same product at any bank, and then you can do very well as a specialist. So not something to discount. As I said, ability to move up, very hierarchical, rigid on the IBD side, definitely loses points there. S&T, much more meritocratic. So how do S&T interview questions for the summer analyst role differ from IBD summer analyst questions? A couple of examples would be really appreciated. Sure. So what I found for most of the S&T interviews that I did was there were a lot of brain teasers. So I think there's a couple books out there. I think you can look at the Bald Guide to Sales and Trading, and you can look at there's a couple other books solely focused on brain teasers. And those are all pretty good in terms of trying to help you prepare for questions that you might expect. So when you think of sales and trading, think about quick thinking. Think about the ability to analyze a situation quickly and make a decision on the spot. And so situations like that are, the best way they can test you on those is through brain teasers. So definitely, to the extent you can, try to prepare brain teasers. Apart from that, I think as long as you convey a genuine interest in finance, I think one side or the other, you're good on both sides. Definitely try to convey, and they're going to ask you, would you say I'm at a disadvantage to be interviewing with a trader when I'm interested more in the sales side? Will that discredit me in any way? No, I don't think so. I think if you are this is always a two-step process, and this can also apply to banking. What I mean by that is most desks that you interview for in sales and trading, you're probably not going to meet people from there the first time you actually go out and recruit. So try to be a little bit more high level. Don't say things like, I would like to do sales for this specific product. But if you are interested in sales, you should definitely say something like, love sales, love sales and trading as a group in general. I love interacting with the public markets. I think my skill set, or what I've learned in school, lends itself best to a sales job. But I'd obviously love, but I do have a quant band, and I'd love to be on the trading side too. So it's not wrong to convey your inclination, but just make sure it's not super specific. I hope that resolves that.